Welcome to the Family Brand Show. We're Chris and Melissa Smith of FamilyBrand.com, husband and wife, parents of 5, and we want to help you take back your family and to live life on your terms.
And we know being a family can feel really overwhelming. Parents tell us they feel like they're being pulled in a million different directions. It's so challenging to navigate the uncertainty and all the chaos that's happening in the world right now.
And that's why we want to bring you every single week actionable tips and strategies that you can implement in your daily life to become a better parent, to become a better spouse, and to build a stronger family. And look, there's never been a better time and a more important time than right now to take back your family. You can define what your family stands for, or the world is going to do it for you. And the world needs strong families now more than ever. And it starts right here with your family. Welcome to this week's podcast. For those of you who can see us, you might notice that there's been some dramatic upgrades to my office and the podcast studio, thanks to this beautiful woman right here.
Yeah, it feels like we're coming in from a new studio.
Yeah, Melissa painted it, hung up this really awesome quote. My word for the year is fearless. You've probably heard us talk about coming up with a word for the year. And Jonathan on my team, who's awesome, he saw this hanging up in an office, and it says, try not to turn my face away from the mic, but it says, "Do not be afraid" is written in the Bible 365 times. That's a daily reminder to live fearless, because my word for the year is fearless. Melissa also, you probably can't see it, but behind is the saddle that I won at a competition recently. So it's just cool. Like, got a piece of art over here that my great grandma, Ethel Gable, she did watercolor, and she has this really cool painting of the Arizona desert. Melissa found us some killer chairs and a coffee table at, what's it called?
Anthropology Home Outlet, which is my new favorite store.
I'm like, I'm going to send them a picture and tell them, hey, if this woman comes in here more than 3 times a week, she's not allowed to come into the Anthropology Home store. No, I'm just kidding. It's awesome.
I've only been in there twice, but I have been trying to set up the office, and there's a few areas of our home that don't, because we moved here into this house in December. You're just trying to get settled in your new space, and it's taken us a few months, but every time I go in there, I find something that I'm looking for and some things that I'm not looking for that I feel like I have to have.
I would tell her, pick it up. Thought I was going to have to fist fight this couple to get these chairs. That there was some debate over who would remove the price tag from them first. But it is a cool store.
But I did come out in Victoria. So, yeah. And so it's Anthropology, but it's an outlet. It's in Gilbert or Mesa, Arizona. So if you're ever in the neighborhood, got good prices, funky, cool stuff.
Yeah, it is a really cool store. And I think that's one of the things that Melissa and I have loved throughout our marriage. And we haven't always had this, but we kind of call it like a creation list. And I know we've talked about this before on the podcast, but we just think it's so fun as a couple to dream together and to create together and not everything we put on our creation list is doable right now. Not everything we put on our dream list is like, and sometimes we think it's a dream or it's on a creation list and then over time it fades away. But there's a lot of things like this office, like making it more of what we really want it to be and bringing it to life and having it be something where we walk into it, we're like, wow, it just feels good to be in here. And Melissa's really good at that. And I think that's how we're trying to look at every aspect of our home. The inside, the outside is that and every room might have a little bit different intention, but to be in a room in your home or be on your property and be there and think, oh, it feels good to be here.
That reminds me that so it's like the beginning of summer, right? Happy summer. Hope you're having an amazing summer. The first day of summer, so one of the other things we're doing this summer is we're decorating the kids' rooms. Like I said, we moved here in December. It's been about 6 months, and I've been telling them since that time, okay, when it's summer, we're going to take some time. We're going to really decorate your rooms how you want to and kind of make them your own. So I had them sit down and watch. There's this master class on platform, it's the platform masterclass that Joanna Gaines does about how to I can't remember exactly what it's called, but how to create a home basically, and
how to make a space that's like yours.
Yeah, I wish I could remember what it's called. I wasn't prepared to talk about this today, but that's the one thing she talks about. She's like, the first question she always asks when she's coming into a space, someone's wanting her to decorate it. How do you want to feel in this space? And then everything else kind of plays off that. And then she has them choose 3 words that they want to kind of capture in the space. I won't go into all of it, but it was really cool to let my kids do that. And obviously my little ones did it in a much lesser way than my older ones as far as like executing on this idea and watching these videos. But it was interesting to see her approach. How do you want to feel in this space? Which this was an unintentional segue.
I actually think we should just talk about this today on the podcast. I think we should talk about summer and how we bring ourselves to summer and the creation list even that we have above the table, because it's just so fun. And I think that sometimes, not sometimes, for many years, I viewed summer as just kind of, as a kid and also as an adult, it's just, oh, it's like time off, unplug, kind of check out, and not in a negative way, like a recharge, relax. And Melissa and I have experimented with something for the last few years, I would say, that actually kind of has us look at summer as an opportunity for like new beginnings, new creation, where typically I would only think about new beginnings, new creation around the beginning of the year. And I think summer is a really unique way to do that, but different. Still have it be a cool vibe, maybe a bit relaxing. And one of the things I think Melissa and I are always present to is we also don't want our kids to just sit around and like just slowly go a little bit more and more checked out mentally by like, becoming zombies on devices. And which, by the way, total side note, Trip did tell me yesterday, he's like, okay, mom gave me this amount of budget for my room. I don't think I told you this. I spent this much. I still have this much left. He's like locked in on his budget and like creating his room to be a space that feels like his, And what's cool is you can make a space feel like yours without a lot of money. You can help your kids have a space that, it feels like really good to them.
He really wanted LED lights. That was like
at
the top of his list.
Stoked about the LED lights too.
His brother that he shares a room with is not stoked about the LED lights. So we're having to navigate that a little bit.
That's hilarious.
So today we were going to talk about this idea of, well, we were going to talk about something else, but are you saying
yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that next week. Because I do think that summer is such a cool opportunity. And look, if you just said, hey, here's our plan for summer, our plan is nothing. That could also be a magical summer. And I think so for me, the way we've approached summer the last few years, I've really liked it. Maybe the last several years is because it does have a lot of kind of just nothing and freedom and free time built into it. But it's also an opportunity to set maybe a way we've approached it is like a different kind of goal. And I don't even remember where you came up with this idea, or if you read something.
I don't remember either.
I do remember Melissa and I had read an article about that one of the greatest things that you can do to combat or lessen the likelihood of like Alzheimer's or dementia later in life is to continue learning, right? A new skill, if that new skill involves like your, physical, like using your hands, the better. And so we actually that prompted us to say that summer, hey, what's a new skill we want to learn this summer, or something we want to get better at? And I remember just randomly, like, I've always wanted to learn how to throw a football and a baseball left-handed without looking like, most people, myself included, you ask someone to throw with their other arm, it's like, oh yeah, you look very awkward throwing right-handed if you're left-handed and vice versa. And so I bought a left-handed baseball glove, and all summer I threw a baseball with my boys and my kids and threw a football. And the greatest compliment ever was we had a guy working on our landscaping, and me and my sons were coming down the street throwing the football. And he was like, I didn't know your husband was left-handed. And she told me later, and I was like, yes, my life is complete. But it was just some random thing, but I had a lot of fun with it that summer. And then it's evolved. And so one of the things that Melissa does is every year, and she did it just this week on the first day of summer, she just gets out this big butcher paper, would you call it?
Yeah, this is like a type B mom, which I just learned what a type B mom is. And I was like, I'm absolutely a type B mom. The type B mom approach to an intentional summer. I had some butcher paper, actual butcher paper from when we smoked meat back in whenever we last did that in the garage. Because I didn't plan ahead to get, like creative big butcher paper. So it was actual butcher paper, and I just rolled a big piece out on the kitchen table and just go at it. I wrote really big on it. This is what we do almost every year. Usually, yeah, sometimes I'm more intentional about it than others, but it just said, this year it says Smith Squad Summer 2025. And then we sat down. This was actually hilarious because the kids had kind of been at each other a little bit summer day one, and they were already fighting a little. And so I turned on some quiet meditation music and I said, I'm going to go gather a few supplies. We're going to do this activity planning for the summer. I want you to be still and quiet and think about what you want to do this summer, what you want to accomplish, what do you want this summer to look like? So I came back with the supplies, like the markers and stuff. And my oldest was like, Mom, I don't feel like this is the way that summer is supposed to feel, like this quiet meditation music. Like we need loud and exciting, and we need like hype music. And so I was like, okay, fair enough. So that song ended. And then I did turn on some hype music because I remember being young. It's like the first day of summer and it's like the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, meditation music's for the fall. Hype music for the summer.
So we turned on the hype music and then I just let them kind of draw all over what they wanted to do this summer. And it's really pretty cute what everyone came up with. The pool is the number one thing. The local pool. Everyone wants to go to the pool.
Yeah, and I think the way you do it though, Melissa, is really cool because it's not just super intentional, like, what are your goals this summer? What do you want to accomplish? It's also just like, what do you want to do? What experiences do you want to have? What friends do you want to play with? What would be fun this summer? And our two youngest both put camping on it a lot. We're not the biggest camping family. We go camping. We like to go camping. We just don't usually make the time to do it. But Melissa and I are already like, oh, okay, we're going to go camping this summer a few times, like more than we usually do because our kids said, that was important to them. I also think for me, it's maybe a bit of the opposite. Like I've been charging so hard in my business. We've had so much growth that I think it's an opportunity for me to actually say, oh, I want to experience a little bit more like calm and peace and rest this summer.
Meditation music?
Yeah, maybe mine is more meditation music, but I just think summer can be magical. It can be, fun. And we also we found and learned the hard way that if we don't have some very intentional kind of co-created conversations with our children at the beginning of summer of what summer is going to look like and grant them some grace to kind of ease into a new routine, which can be challenging for kids. I think we learned the hard way, like, oh, our kids just now think it's time to like be on devices or screens all day, every day. They think it's just, like okay to tease and bother and argue with each other. And so just getting ahead of that a little bit and not like it solves every challenge, but it has, I think, helped us to have these really intentionally created conversations around getting into an agreement around what summer will look like, our routines, our rhythms, what does screen time look like. But yeah, it's just an opportunity for everyone to kind of talk about what would the ideal summer be.
Let's pause for a second about agreements. We haven't talked about this in a long time. I think it would be a good brief conversation, expectation versus agreement.
Yeah, I just did a training on this today with a company. We're training about 25 of their sales team, and we talked about the difference between expectations and agreements. So expectations, and we've got a podcast episode, I think, just about this. We can link to that in the show notes. An expectation is very one-sided. It's filled with a lot of uncertainty, no clear deadline. And someone's always going to lose in an expectation because it's like, no, you said this. No, I said this. And it's usually being cast upon someone. So an expectation conversation around this would look like Melissa and I coming in and going, all right, kids, this is how the summer is going to go. You're not going to be on screens all day. You're not going to be, arguing and fighting. We're going to get up at this time. And your kids are just like, pretty much will say, okay, just to get you to shut up, like just to get you to leave them alone. And you think you have an agreement. It's like, no, you just threw some expectations at them. An agreement would look like you started with, hey, what do we want to create this summer? Not that that's an agreement, but it starts it because it's co-created. So you don't have an agreement unless both sides or both parties or everyone's able to co-create it and speak into it. That's a really important element. So an expectation is one-sided, agreements are co-created. Expectations would be like, you're not going to be on screens a lot this summer. Very fuzzy. An agreement would be very specific. Hey, here's how much time per day we're gonna allot for screens. What do you think of that? Like we arrive at, we might say like, we only want you to be on screens 10 minutes a day. They might be like, well, I want 10 hours. It's like, well, okay, well, let's arrive at, but it has a deadline. It has specificity in it.
Or yeah, these things will be done before we have screen time, and you can kind of talk through those details together.
Totally. Like before you can get on screen, we're going to accomplish like these specific jobs by this time. An expectation would be like, you're not going to get on any screens until you've done what I asked you to do. It's like, well, how do I measure that? Another expectation around summertime could be, we're not just staying up till midnight every night, sleeping in and getting up whenever we want. But again, no specificity. Like, hey, Monday through Thursday, bedtime's going to be this. We're going to get everyone up at this. Like, so just, it's co-created. So agreements are co-created. Agreements have a lot of clarity and specificity, and they have like very specific like deadlines and timelines. And I just think it's, and by the way, it isn't like you have this agreement conversation around summer one time and you're going to be good. You're going to probably have to have it and then establish it and revisit it probably once or twice a week, or maybe in like your family check-in, just to kind of keep people, hey, we're drifting a little bit, or hey, I've noticed people are getting on screens before their jobs are done, which isn't part of our agreement. Hey, I've noticed that, people are staying up way later than what we agreed to. But it's so much, I'll say this too, when you have an agreement, it's such a powerful place to remind or correct from, because they know that they created the agreement. They know that they had a say in creating it. Versus if it's an expectation, it feels like you're just attacking them and they feel attacked. Instead of, it's like, hey, remember this agreement we created? And they're like, yeah. It's like, well, we're not doing that. Like, let's get back to our agreement.
And this is more than just this one piece of like expectations and agreements. I think the bigger picture of this is your family culture. Like, what does your family culture look like? Does everyone have a voice? Does everyone feel like they can contribute? I think this is a great way to reinforce that this summer. And there is going to be a period of navigating new changes, new schedules, new agreements. So be patient.
One thing that I told Melissa, for me, well, because we talk as a family, what's important to us is this summer, what do we want to create? We do it as a family. And then Melissa and I, we talk about it for each other, but then we kind of talk about it on behalf of our family. Like, what do we think would be good for our family this summer? And one of the things that we recognized that we felt would be good for our family this summer is to not go on as big of a summer trip as we usually do. Because we often will go anywhere from 2 to 8 weeks at a time sometimes, like on bigger trips. And we've just decided for this summer, we did kind of our family vacation early in May. And we're going to do some shorter trips. And there was an intention behind that. We want to spend more time at home. We just built this home. We want to like really work on the property, work on our con grove. So that was important. The other thing I said to Melissa is like, I saw this Instagram reel and I hope I can find it so we can link to the show notes. It was hilarious, but it was also like, that's what I want for my kids this summer. And it was a guy who's probably close to my age, in his 40s. And he's like, give your children a 1990s summer this summer. The magic of like the 90s. He goes, I got out of school in May and was not allowed back in my house till Labor Day. He's like, that's like, and I know that you like, he's like, but literally, like my parents were like, no, get out of here. Go be wild and get in trouble and have fun and like ride your bikes and like find a Ouija board at the river and like whatever who knows what you're doing, And he even talks about, he goes, so like me and my buddies, we were young kids, and our whole mission was to find girls. And there's no girls in our tiny little town. And the only girls there were our buddies' sisters, which were off limits, but we still were on the prowl. Like that's what we did. We're out looking for girls. And he goes, then one time, he goes, I got hit by a car in our little town. It was going really slow. Hit me, gashed my head open. A stranger picked me up, took me into their house with my buddies, bandaged on my head. And then we went out and rode our bikes the rest of the day. And my mom never found out until like the day later she saw the Band-Aid. It's like, when you start thinking about that and you're like, yeah, like in the summer when I was a kid, I'd leave my house in the morning on my BMX bike. And then I'd call my mom collect from the Pima pool because they made you, like, I think they made you give them a quarter to make a call because they were probably tired of kids calling all the time. And so I can't remember how it worked. But anyways, I'd call my mom collect. And if you remember back in the day, they'd be like, you have a collect call from, when you had like 10 seconds. And I'd like slip a message into my mom on the collect call and then it would like hang up on me. So it's like, you have a collect call from? I'd be like, Mom, I'm at the Pima pool. I'll be home by 4. Or I'd tell her my next thing I was doing, or hey mom, I need to ride somewhere. Those are just magical. Like, I couldn't get on a screen if I wanted to. Yeah, I had some TV, but again, my mom probably put some parameters around how much TV I could watch. But I didn't have a phone, I didn't have an iPad, and it was just magical to just like, every day was a new adventure. Every day was like, well, what can I find with my bike? Like, where can I, and I know everyone's a little bit different depending on where you live. But for me, it's like, man, I'd love to give my kids a little bit more of like a 90s summer, which has me realize, oh, our kids, our youngest two bikes aren't working because we bought these e-bikes and it's been a bit of a nightmare with this company. But like, it's like, oh, we got to get a bikes and like
Yeah.
let them roam and let them like
Right now.
go build forts, and go get in trouble. Or like, I saw this video the other day, this little kid who comes into the house and he's like, Mom, look what I found. He's probably like 10. And his mom's like, that's a raccoon. Get that out of our house. And he was like, no, it's nice. It's just like, I think a little bit of that magic in childhood is just sadly been lost a little bit, but we could bring it back to some degree as parents for our kids.
It reminds me of a book I read recently. I think we've talked about it, called The Anxious Generation. And the author talks about how childhood just changed for kids. Like exactly what you're saying, Chris, that what it looks like then is not what it looks like now. But he breaks down exactly what it looks like and how that's been different and the effects of kids of social media, screen time, etc. But one other thing he talks about is how kids used to have way more freedom to go do things. They had more independence. And he talks about like running down to the grocery store if you needed, your mom needed some eggs. Hey, can you ride your bike down to the grocery store and go get eggs? Or can you just more freedom to be out like around in the neighborhood without really knowing exactly where they are? Just that there's been a lot of, whether it's through media or what it is, parents are more fearful now to let their kids do that. But one of the main points was that it's safer now than it ever has been. But for some reason, we as parents don't feel that it's safe to let our kids be
Totally
out around.
And obviously, I think kids don't have to imagine and make believe anymore, because it's like all of the imagination and make believe and creativity is like solved for in their minds by mindless, mind numbing YouTube videos, And like, I'm not out to make social media bad, but I think like we've even had to remind our two youngest, like, hey, go play make believe. Hey, Safari Jim and Safari Jane, this thing that they have, it's like, yeah, go do that. And sometimes I'll be like, oh yeah, that is fun. And I think it's easier than ever as a parent to lose sight of that. It's easier than ever for me to be like, just go like watch YouTube or go watch a movie. Or I'm realizing if my children are going to have a bit more of a 90s summer, if you will, it's going to require more intentionality and more effort on my part to help make that happen. But it's like, I want that for them. I look back on my childhood, and I think a lot of people our age look back on their childhood. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think a lot of people our age look back on their childhood with a little bit of like, it was kind of magical. Like the adventure of it. And like I wonder how many kids today will look back on their childhood and be like, oh, my childhood was magical. Versus like, kind of spent my whole childhood like looking at a device, looking at a screen, and being entertained by other people.
The examples you're giving about the 90s childhood, one thing that sticks out to me is that in any of those situations, the mom or dad is not entertaining the kid. I think sometimes when we think like, okay, let's get them off screens, but we need to solve for this. We need to give them things to do. I think that that's important too, that we don't solve for it. Like you're saying, like they can use their imaginations. They can figure some things out. I think
make their own fun. Yeah, no, I think a lot of parents today feel that pressure of like, always got to be having these deep introspective conversations with my child. I've always got to be like entertaining them, making sure they're having fun. It's like, oh, like I don't. Kids are so creative, talented, and capable. But I think a great place to start, if you take nothing else from this, literally get a huge poster board, a white paper, butcher paper, and just free form, like, hey, what do we want to do this summer? What would be some fun things? What's important to us? Maybe you create a theme for the summer. What's a skill I want to get better at this summer? And just get it hung up in your home and just, yeah, have a little bit more intention. But maybe that's our theme for me, anyways. The 90s summer.
So go out and make a 90s summer and have an epic summer. See you guys next week. Thanks for hanging out with us today on the Family Brand Podcast. But wait, before you go, I want to give you something. It's something I stole out of our Family Brand Academy because I thought it would make a big difference for you, and I want you to have it for free, no strings attached. It's how we run our family meetings, and not just our family meetings that we have every week, but also our family check-ins, which is the system we've developed for how to connect with our kids and each other, Chris and I, every single week. And we've had some great outcomes with this. Not only have we, but a lot of families that have implemented this have as well. Actually, life-changing outcomes, if I'm being honest. You'll definitely want to get this. Go get your copy at familybrand.com/meeting, and we will catch you next time.